Hey, Joe, what do you got for us tonight?
Well, tonight is the 12th part in our series on Jim Jones and the People's Temple. We will cover the continued downfall of Jim's empire, his uncontrolled drug use, and the legal and media firestorm that would eventually lead to the event that would cause the mass suicide of everyone in Jonestown, the visit from California Congressman Leo Ryan.
Quiet your mind. Ever since the Earth has circled the sun, there have been fantastic tales of wonder and mystery that the faint of heart dare not discuss. But three brave, uninformed souls have the brass to tackle every extraordinary happenstance, from the modern age to the dawn of Mantis.
Welcome to Dawn of Mantis, true crime, mysteries, and more. Hey, Joe, we're back in Jim's world for a few more episodes.
Yeah.
You know, he could have done his own series if there had been like TV series like there are now. Like Jim's World, he could have been on the TV and broadcast his message. I mean, he could have had like a telethon suicide.
Telethon suicide.
Yeah. Call in right before you drink. Let us know that we got your pledge.
That's wild, man.
Yeah, I'm glad he didn't think of that, actually. Now that it just pops into my head.
He had his own little radio show for a minute, but never TV. Never did that.
Yeah, I guess it was early for that. Later on, I think they petitioned the FCC and got some kind of really cheap rate for a station license. That's why all those blew up in the like the 80s and stuff.
You know what? A gift that we have lost, but I guess maybe YouTube fills that void, but the public access.
Yeah, I used to watch this stuff all the time.
Me too.
Yeah.
It was just delightfully terrible and cheaply done. It was so bad it was good.
Yeah. Maybe we should see if we can get on some public access like this podcast. Like, let's go old school. Let's be on some like 72.1 channel or something.
Dawn of Mantis World. Dawn of Mantis World. Party time.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And Joe could be like, welcome to our studio.
Come on. So I've got to give these guys a shout out. This is an old, I think it was early 90s or something. I don't know when Beyond Vaudeville.
Okay.
Speaking of gems of like late night public access.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Okay, just guys, go look up some Beyond Vaudeville. Actually, if you follow Dawn of Mantis on Instagram, I've posted several of their videos to our story. It was just anyone could go on there. It got kind of popular later on, and MTV even like had them on for a minute. But I'm talking about the good old days when they were on.
Yeah, okay, access. I'll check it out. I like stuff like that.
Beyond Vaudeville.
I used to watch where it'd be like some kind of meeting with some kind of city council.
Oh, yeah.
And some guy'd be mad, be like, well, the storm drain washed my trash can away again because the lid came off.
The city owes me a trash can.
Exactly. It was
I'm
stuff
not
like
leaving
that.
until I get you.
Move that we researched the drain problem over in East Lake. You know, it's like, passed. Motion carried.
Yeah.
We'll get a guy over there.
Yeah.
I was like, this is good TV. It's better than prime time.
Government at work.
Oh, crap. Full House is on. Turn this crap on. All right. So let's get back into Jim's world, as I said before.
Really quickly.
Go.
I'm sorry to do this, but...
You have to apologize publicly.
Well, let's get serious for a minute.
Uh-oh.
I was reached out to in confidence, in private. I'm not going to disclose this person's name. But someone reached out to me a few days ago with a confession that really has shaken me to my core.
What?
And I don't want anyone to judge this girl. I don't want anyone to malign her. That's why I'm not going to give out her real identity, because I don't want her to be harassed or anything. So let's just call her Casey Anthony. I don't want anyone to judge her negatively. So let's just call this name Casey.
It's called CA to protect her identity.
She messaged me, and her dress method for her feet is sock, shoe, sock, shoe.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I thanked her for having the bravery to come out to me with that. It's pretty significant. And on the show, I got a little heated and said that if you do that, I didn't want you to listen.
So
I told her that I still want her to listen.
Sock, shoe. Is that where you're on the sock, shoe?
Yeah.
So other people are sock, shoe.
This particular person is, yes.
That's the part of the show where I was speaking a different language, I guess. But anyway, do you think it's about balance?
I don't know. I think it's a mental issue. I don't know.
No, but I mean, do you think the reason why we like sock, shoe is because it's like Sock. Okay, that's balance.
Right.
Shoe. Now it's balance.
I just think people do a thing a certain way, and they just think that's the way it should be done. Oh, it also harkens back. Here's another one. It's the old leaning versus standing debate for when you wipe, you know? You're either a leaner or a stander.
I've never heard that debate.
Oh, it's a fiery hot debate.
Is this public access? Is this where you're seeing these?
There's two podiums.
Yeah.
Representing the leaners is
Eileen Davidson.
Eileen? Yeah. Wow, how ironic.
It's in my DNA to lean. It's in my name.
Oh, man.
I didn't know that was a debate.
You've never heard the old leaning versus standing debate?
No, I never have.
Okay.
I never have. But, I mean, I guess there could be that debate. I mean...
Oh, the leaner. Yeah, the leaners seem to think that the only way to get the proper separation is to lean. But the standers, I think, stand, and I think you use one hand to pull a cheek aside, and that's how you get the separation. It's a whole thing.
As Doc told Marty, you're not thinking fourth dimensionally because there are also sprayers.
Well, yeah, but I mean, even if you dab afterwards, do you lean or do you stand? Do you lean or do you stand?
I do stand. But I feel like that's not the same argument because that's a different type of thing you're doing.
Okay. Well, listen.
That's just a drying.
I'm a stander also.
I think it's because you're short.
Oh, you think so?
But Ivan's not short, and he stands.
Well, no, I didn't say that. I think I was a leaner.
Are you backing out on that now?
I'm backing out.
Okay, anyway, I just wanted to talk about that.
Well, that was very insightful.
Yeah, I'm sure she's listening to this, and I didn't.
She never
reveal your
misses
name.
an episode.
No, she doesn't. Yo, she's a great listener, man. She's a big fan.
If she had a kid crying in another room, she'd be like, I don't care. I'm listening to the podcast right now. So you just stay in there in the kitchen with all the cabinet doors where you can open them.
Mm-hmm. I've got 54 minutes left on this episode, so good luck, Junior. You know, it's pretty important when someone has the bravery to divulge something of that magnitude to me.
Hey, bravery for once.
Yeah, wanted to All right, so shall we get started?
We shall.
Jim Jones had barely even settled in at Jonestown when things began to fall apart. Of course, there was the ongoing battle with the Stones over little John Victor that we detailed in the last episode, but other parents had begun to fight for their children as well. Years earlier, Temple members Howard and Beverly Oliver had signed their two boys, Billy and Bruce, over to the People's Temple. They had since defected, the parents, but their children had been taken to Jonestown. By that time, Bruce was 19, so he could do whatever he pleased. Why are you giggling? Why are you giggling?
We out. See ya.
Yeah.
I think if I'm in a cult and my kids are in a cult, I'm just going to stay in the cult.
Yeah, you stay with your kids.
I don't know. I can't judge. I've never walked a mile in their used tire sandals.
There you go. I was going to say, what would a true socialist wear?
Well, I'm just saying them in the jungle.
Yeah.
Catalpa leaf shoes.
We can't wipe with them, but we can wear them on our feet.
So a listener mentioned that, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I never thought so much about different things I would use for toilet paper. So we had somebody thinking. Oh,
we had someone message me about, I think all of their message said was that poor squirrel, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So, yeah, that is weird. I would think that, too. How could you leave your kids in the cult? But then again,
yeah, I know. But
I don't want to be those people that I would never do.
I know. That's what I realized I sounded like. And I was like, oh, no, the truth's coming out. I'm like that.
So out of these two boys, Bruce was 19. So he was an adult, right? He could do whatever he pleased or whatever Jim pleased. Billy, though, was 17. So he's right on the cusp, the precipice of being an adult. So not long after Jim's arrival in Jonestown, the Olivers had obtained a court injunction returning Billy's custody to them, and they had flown to Guyana to grab him. Of course, Jim sent out his minions to intercept them in Georgetown and stall until the couple ran out of money and they had to return to the U.S. Then there was Stephen Katsaris. That's the father of Maria, Jim's mistress. She was 24, so, you know, he couldn't obtain custody, obviously, but he was trying his damnedest to get her to come home anyway. He even traveled to Georgetown to meet her, but she refused, and he returned to the U.S. after waiting several days for his daughter. After this, he was able to talk Maria into a meeting, and a month after, he flew back to Guyana, and he did meet with her in Georgetown.
Okay.
However, Jim had also sent Carolyn Layton and two other Temple members to make sure the meeting went the way he wanted it to go. So Jim's little ruse worked by sending these other people. And plus Maria was uncooperative, and Mr. Katsaris again returned home without his daughter, but not before leaving a ticket back at the U.S. Embassy for her to fly to wherever they lived in America. Anytime it was like an open ticket, he left it there and told them, if he ever shows up, just let her know there's a ticket home.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Did it work?
Absolutely not. Nope. But concerned relatives weren't the only bees in Jim Jones' bonnet. Remember that time back in L.A. when he'd fiddled his giggle stick in front of a cop?
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Even that was coming back to haunt him.
I actually forgot about it until you mentioned it. I forgot about that part of him.
Yeah, he did that too. 3 years earlier, a judge had ordered records of Jim's arrest to be destroyed. But in late 1977, Jim discovered that not only had the records not been destroyed, but Avell Younger, California's Attorney General, was now attempting to overturn the judge's decision to keep them sealed, which would make them a matter of public record.
Okay.
So his little fiddle time would be, just open for anybody to read about. Obviously, he didn't want this to happen because the account of his lewd activities would lend credence to the concerned relatives' argument that he shouldn't have custody of a shitload of children.
Oh, that's true.
Right? Like a pervert harboring hundreds of kids in the jungle.
Yeah, but I bet he wasn't worried about his followers, learning that story. Because all he'd have to say is that's not real. They're just trying to get me.
Yeah, they fabricated this against me. They're trying to sully the good name of the People's Temple.
Fake news.
Fake news. In sheer panic, Jim sent his attorneys to California to fight the decision by any means necessary, or at least tie the matter up in court for as long as possible.
Oh, that's a tactic that's used a lot.
Dude, that works too. I mean, you can do it for years.
Oh, yeah. They got no problem with that.
No. Then, on top of all these other complications, Marceline arrived to Jonestown in October of 77. So Jim had been openly living with his two mistresses for months, and although Carolyn and Maria were integral to the running of Jonestown, most of the People's Temple still looked at Marcy as mother, and the closest to Jim's equal any human could achieve. She had first remained, by the way, more and more I'm realizing, I don't want to remove any responsibility from Jim. He was still in control of everything. I mean, you can hear him ordering everyone to kill themselves. I mean, he was still in control.
Joe in this episode's like, hey, I'm going to walk back a lot of things about Jim in this episode, okay?
He wasn't that bad of a guy when you really think about it.
That would be like a Sixth Sense type of podcast twist, wouldn't it?
After 15 hours of talking about how shitty this guy is.
I'm starting to like him.
He was so strung out on drugs, especially like at the very end. I am finding out more and more, not even in the notes, this is after, that Maria and Carolyn, they did really run a lot of Jonestown. Now, it was doing things that Jim would want, right? They didn't deviate and hey, now everyone's going to be happy and not work as much.
But they couldn't have been, maybe they shouldn't have been so good.
Yes, yeah.
At succeeding what he wanted them to succeed.
Yeah, so they ended up really just being so negative. Because even when Jim was out of it, instead of giving a short break or reprieve for everyone, they took over to just, keep the hammer down or whatever.
The dad from Hansel and Gretel. I always hated that guy. Because you know what he did?
I've never thought of that guy in my life.
Because he let his wife lead the kids out into the woods. And then when they came back, he actually took them back out there. They did the breadcrumb thing, right?
Yeah.
And then later on in the story, I read this story one day to Sagan, and I kept quiet about it because I didn't want to ruin it. But it's at the end, they're like, Father, and he's like, I've left that horrible woman. It's like, yeah, but come on. So here's the thing. Those ladies were kind of like the dad. I mean, they were just letting bad things happen.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
You're responsible for that too.
Totally. I think I mentioned it in an earlier episode, but if anyone has the chance, I think it's on Hulu. There's a documentary called The Women of Jonestown.
Oh, okay.
And it really outlines Maria and Carolyn and a couple of others, how I don't even know if it would have went down like it did without them. They were really a big part.
Yeah, because it takes a lot of help to poison that many people.
Yes.
It's a teamwork makes the dream work type of thing.
Yep, and that's what happened.
Their dream was a freaking nightmare.
Yep. Oh, very good.
I didn't mean that was just I stumbled into that thing.
Keep doing that because no, there's been a trend lately. I just want people to know. The names of the last several episodes have been things that Ivan just blurts out. And I'm like, oh my God, that's perfect. That's the name of our episode.
Yeah, I've seen that t-shirt before. Stay wackadoo.
So yeah, Marcy shows up. Jim's been openly living with these two gals. So the reason that she had not came with everyone else, she remained in the States to run the San Francisco temple and to fight off all of Jim's critics, which was a full-time job. But despite being just 50 at that time, her health had deteriorated significantly, undoubtedly from the stresses of just being married to Jim, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, that's a good, enough said.
That's it, yeah. But now she was in the promised land where she could let down her guard and finally rest a little, but she just couldn't rest with Jim.
No.
As if she couldn't be more insulted than she'd already been, Marcy was placed in a totally separate cottage away from Jim's and his two lady friends.
That's good.
But she did not behave as a defeated woman. Actually, Jonestown seemed to rejuvenate her spirit. Marcy took over management of the medical facility. She helped counsel temple members and spent lots of time tending to the children in Jonestown's daycare and nursery.
Yeah, that's cool.
Anytime new problems arose back in the States, which was always, Jim would send her right back. She literally hated it. She actually liked Jonestown.
Yeah.
And hated going back to the States to try to fight off reporters and, this deluge of people.
That's weird.
Yeah, I think she just hated dealing with the press and the law, the concerned relatives, where she was always having to take up for Jim.
Sure.
In all these interviews and press reports. It was just exhausting. I just think Jonestown, as stinky and hot and muggy and shitty as it was.
Yeah.
Well, we even said before, Jonestown was awesome before Jones was there.
Yeah. Yeah. They were having a ball, before he showed up.
Oh, no.
Then we played that one clip where he said the F word 11,000 times in like 19 seconds. Well, so sometime in November of 1977, two teenage boys named Tommy Bogue and Brian Davis tried to escape Jonestown by fleeing into the jungle. Obviously, this infuriated Jim, who, after their capture and return, held a meeting in which he placed them on stage and scolded them literally for hours. Thanks to, Jim's obsession with recording everything on cassette tape, we have a snippet of this exact meeting where he is yelling at these boys and freaking out. So if anyone wants to listen to more of it, it's a YouTube video called Escape Attempt from Jonestown, November 1977, Jim Jones Angry. That's the name of the video. And we're going to go ahead and play a clip from that now.
I just like to say, this idiot, you've been in the bush, but you've only been around where people are always there all the time. There ain't going to be no animals there. You get out in the Venezuelan jungle, and you're going to run into every kind of fucking thing. They would have killed you. If you're lucky, we found you. You know what lives here, man. You know it.
What
don't
lives
say
there?
You don't. Or
You know about it? The caima, the puma, the leopard, the ocelot? About 50 different breeds of poisonous reptiles? Are you aware of this? How long have you been around here?
14 months, Father.
The anaconda?
I'm not aware of all of it.
36 foot long? Can crush a horse in seconds? Don't you think you old water commodity? You didn't know about the great mammoth water commodity?
Yes,
And the land commodity on top of it? Didn't you think you should have told your brother this? Tripping out in the jungles? Did you not think that this government is our ally?
Yes, Father. I did.
Well, what did you think? How did you manage to think you were going to get in Venezuela with the government alerted? I've alerted every person in this government, from the Prime Minister on down. The Border Patrol said if you tried to cross, you'd be shot. How did you think you were going to get out of here?
I was going to go down there by the Burima River and stay down there.
They've all been alerted. No boat would dare pick you up. It's been a violation of law. All the canoes.
Coast Guard were already notified they were coming up and down the river looking for you already, so you didn't have a chance in the world.
You think I've located in this jungle, knowing all the scalawags like you that have done this shit before, after been through Leon's lies? We knew that wasn't sufficient. If Leon could make it even though he's a vegetable, that wouldn't be enough for you people. We knew there'd be others. So we had firm working alliances. We wanted Leon gone, because we knew he was a babbling idiot by the time they found him. Talking about fighting in World War III. You heard all that. So we wanted him gone. We didn't want his big fat ass around. And the government said that it's lucky they weren't handling him. Anybody got any questions to ask these assholes that have taken all of our workforce today, spread out, got the Guyana Defense Force alerted, the Coast Guard alerted, the Border Patrol alerted, the Prime Minister's Secret Police alerted. Anybody have any? Minister of Agriculture alerted, and the Deputy Prime Minister alerted. and the Commissioner of Police alerted, and the Kaituma Police alerted, and the Matthews Ridge Police alerted, and the GNS alerted.
We all wanted you picked up.
Well, picked up, and it was a law that you had to be returned here. Right. Anybody that violated it would be in trouble with the federal government. That's why they have no doctor but our doctor. The young woman that was to be posted up here, a young Indian, and a young black that was supposed to be at Marburuma, both blown to pieces by the capitalists that you have no contempt for, the capitalists that you would even participate with in their tortures, the capitalists which you will take the prerogative, you filth, you vile filth. You're vile, you're evil, you're insidious, you're low.
He has a lot of contacts. Can you imagine his Rolodex?
Everyone was alerted.
Yeah.
John Rambo, alerted. MacGyver, alerted. Dog the Bounty Hunter, alerted. So, yeah, you just get a taste of how Jim lost his mind when anyone wanted to leave. And by the way, did he threaten them with an ocelot? What's an He did. The ocelot. The ocelot. The 39,000-foot anaconda that can eat 17 billy goats in one swallow. What's an ocelot? Ocelot.
He never dawned on them. They'd rather be in the jungle. That's the thing. They'd rather be in the day.
I'd rather live with those things, Father.
I mean, he exaggerated, but he's right. That's a dangerous place.
Looks like a tiny leopard.
They're cute. They're
But
cute.
I don't stay out of the woods because I'm afraid of a raccoon. I mean, they would do some damage.
Yeah.
But I'd still go out in the woods.
He was just, by that time, just naming every animal he could think of.
Man, they're beautiful.
The fuzzy caterpillar. The dung beetle.
Look at those things.
The hummingbird.
I would want to go out looking for an ocelot.
I want a pet ocelot now. Ocelot? He called it an ocelot. And just think, man, you know, everybody was cheering him on, too. You know, people in the background, I don't know if you could hear it very well in the recording, but they were like, yeah, you son of a bitch. You know, they were just like adding in. They were just so angry.
Why do you want out of here? We eat so well. And you never get in trouble for anything. This is like a great place.
Are you telling me you're tired of wiping with fern leaves, 2-minute showers, 2-minute showers, getting yelled at all the time?
Oh, but 2-minute showers once a week.
Yeah.
What do you call them? Vile, or what did he say?
He did say vile. Insidious. You're vile. Evil.
Yeah, he called him vile and then he spit at him.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to go back
that's
to the
not
capitalist?
the pot calling the kettle crazy.
Well, then Jim's troubles in the United States continued. So on the 13th of November, the San Francisco Examiner had published something about the death of Bob Houston. Remember, we talked about him earlier?
Yeah, kind of.
Ran over by the train.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He got run.
Supposedly.
Well, yeah, his father suspected that the temple was involved, as did we. So the very next week, Jim failed to show up in court to return John Victor. Remember that whole thing?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And the California Superior Court issued San Francisco DA Joseph Freitas an order to, quote, take all actions necessary to locate Jones and secure the return of John Victor Stone.
Wow.
Joseph Freitas, who the People's Temple, quote unquote, helped get elected. Remember that whole thing?
Yeah.
They took credit for it.
Well, he didn't end up needing their help.
Yeah, because remember, Jim was falsely claiming that there was like thousands and thousands of registered voters in the People's Temple. Turns out there was a couple hundred. And not even Jim was a registered voter. And
yeah. Oh, I forgot.
Just a few weeks later, on December 9th, Lynetta Jones, Jim's mom. Now, okay, I haven't talked a lot about Lynetta, but she has been there by Jim's side, in and out, you know, involved loosely throughout this entire ordeal.
Oh, wow.
I've listened to a few other podcasts that focused more on Lynetta and her role. Personally, and me, I didn't give a shit, really, so I just didn't. This damn series is long enough without talking about mom the whole time.
Yeah.
Or adding that in. So anyway, just know she was there. She was in and out helping with stuff, you know, supporting Jim. So December 9th, she dies in Jonestown. The very next day, Chris Lewis, we've talked about him before. That's Jim's former bodyguard. He was a staple in the People's Temple. He was shot and killed back in San Francisco. So a lot of crazy things happening.
Anything on that?
No, I just think it was an unrelated. He was just a crazy dude. I think it was an unrelated thing. You know, he was always getting into something.
Anything, I guess.
Yeah. All of Jim's legal troubles and the deaths of Lynetta and Chris Lewis sent him to an even darker place in his mind, if that's possible.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that possible?
He gathered his followers in Jonestown and began asking if everyone would be prepared to die if the situation called for it. He also claimed that the Guyanese government could show up at any time and attack Jonestown and take their kids. He was always, they're going to take our kids. They're going to kill our kids. They're going to parachute in here. And
Yeah, but I thought they were on his side about the runaways.
yeah, and I don't know. They're
Walking contradiction.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden they're against you now?
Yeah, when he needed them to be, you know.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, the Guyanese police or whatever you need them to be. It says that on their car.
Yeah, instead of
Whatever
like
you want us to be.
whatever. Well, I don't know.
They're like Physicians Mutual.
Our Burger King, have it your way.
Oh, yeah. Just whatever. In the early morning hours of February 16th, 1978, Jim got on Jonestown's intercom system and ordered everyone in for a meeting.
Uh-oh.
ASAP.
Not again.
I wonder how many people are out in the fields or doing. They're just like, good Jesus Christ.
Oh, you know.
Jim Jones.
Yeah. Jim Jones it.
So once gathered there, Jim announced to his people that the Guyanese soldiers had been spotted nearby. An attack was imminent. Here they come.
So you have a meeting.
Yep. I picture the meeting from Blazing Saddles.
Yes.
You were too, weren't you?
Yeah.
Someone in the crowd suggested they flee to Russia.
Oh, okay. It's just right next door.
Yeah. Now, this is a thing. Jim had written a letter to Russian ambassador Fyodor Timofeyev.
Sure.
To discuss the idea of Jonestown possibly relocating there. He had thought about it.
Yeah.
I think Jim would love Russia.
Yeah.
I mean, at the time, they were straight up communists, and oh my God, they
just getting there logistically. I mean, do you go east or west? I don't know.
I think you'd go.
It doesn't matter. It's on the other side of the dang globe.
So yeah, this was a thing. This was a backup plan that Jim had. At that point in time, the ambassador seemed open to the idea, but it was just an idea. So really, they didn't have anywhere to run. So Jim declared that he and his people would take their own lives and deprive the soldiers the satisfaction of murdering them. 2 large barrels of dark liquid were brought to the pavilion, and Jim ordered everyone to line up and take a drink.
Holy crap.
Jim has everyone line up, everyone take a drink. He said the death would be painless. The poison would kill you within about 45 minutes. So everyone lined up, everyone did it. And after the last person had taken their drink, Jim grabbed the microphone and said, okay.
You passed.
You passed. You didn't take anything. This was a test and you passed. That's what he said. As a reward for their allegiance, Jim canceled all the work assignments planned that day, and he allowed his followers some leisure time.
Okay.
So, and I think I said this before, but it is weird that after the suicides, they were interviewing Stephen Jones, his son, and he was like, yeah, we never saw anything like this coming. And I was like, you went through like 15 dry runs of this suicide thing, and you didn't see it coming?
Maybe he just thought it was always going to be a,
He never thought he'd actually do it?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, when we listened to that clip, the first person talking that was like, call him a dumbass, well, that was actually Stephen.
Okay.
That was Jim's son, Stephen, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Directly after this incident, Jim and Larry Schacht, or whatever his name is, we went through that before.
Yeah.
They purchased 1 pound of sodium cyanide, enough for 1,800 lethal doses.
Where'd they get that?
The doctor ordered it. The doctor was, but I think back then cyanide was pretty common. I think people used it for all kinds of shit. I think it was common. This is what's crazy.
Take one of these and never call me in the morning.
Do you know how much it cost to kill all 900 and something people in Jonestown?
Let me guess. $632. No, I think it'd be real low. I think it'd be like $12.99.
You're close. $8.85 for a pound of cyanide in 1978.
Wow.
That's how much it cost to kill 900 people. Well,
What?
plus the flavor aid.
That's it?
That was it. But $9 for a pound of cyanide, sodium cyanide powder.
So it maybe cost $25.
To kill everybody.
Yeah.
Man.
He could have that's really pisses me
It's
off.
probably really watered down flavor.
I just realized he had millions of dollars in banks all over the world, and he didn't give them Kool-Aid. He still went, what a piece of shit. Like, what a bastard. So, all right, the early months of 1978 saw several visits to Guyana by Tim and Grace Stone to collect their little boy. But of course, Jim was always able to have his Guyanese officials stall and eventually deter them until their money ran out. They had to go back to the U.S. Although he'd been able to hold them off thus far, the stress was overwhelming Jim. He dove even deeper into the pill bottle and sometimes wouldn't emerge from his cabin for days at a time, which was a blessing.
You know what he thought? Like, if those kids go home and someone were to set a tape recorder in front of them and record, like, hey, tell us about your time in Jonestown. He probably knows. He's probably smart enough to know, like, that would end him, like, quick.
Yeah.
So that's probably why he never wanted to let it get out. And it's also the ownership thing, like a power thing.
And even an adult, like when he allowed Stephen Katsaris to speak with Maria, he had handlers there around her. So, and just in case, to make sure she didn't say anything negative.
That's true.
Or to keep her in line. So even with adults, man.
That's bad stuff.
For the people of Jonestown, this was kind of a blessing when Jim would kind of disappear because, just his presence was anxious to everybody. Of course, like I said, when he would go in those stupors, Maria and Carolyn would take over, and maybe they didn't get that much of a break. But
yeah,
even them, Jim would torment them for hours upon hours via the intercom system that he could bark through that microphone in his cabin, and it would go all over Jonestown. Sometimes it got so bad, people would just switch off the power.
That's awesome.
It's like, Jesus, I can't do this anymore. What his followers didn't know was that during these reclusive stints in Jim's cabin, he was either in or recovering from a drug-induced stupor. The years of constant amphetamine use had worn him down, and he could not bounce back like he used to. Even though he and his inner circle had tried their best to keep the situation under wraps, they were unsuccessful. Back in the States, Jim could fight his demons privately and only had to make sure to put on appearances when he went to church services and meetings. But in Jonestown, he was unable to hide. Almost every aspect of his privacy was gone, and all that was left was the bloated, paranoid, aging, drug-riddled shell of a man that he was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell us what you really think of it.
While checking on the workers in the fields, he would gasp for air and sweat profusely in the sultry jungle. He constantly complained of aches and pains. He sometimes struggled to keep his stamina during meetings. The man who'd once cured his own fatal gunshot wound, the man who'd pulled thousands of cancerous tumors out of people, the man who'd literally raised the dead, could no longer even heal himself.
Yeah. I mean, it is so funny, like God out of shape.
Yeah.
Like, why don't you just make yourself like Hercules or something?
They were like, looks like God is one of us. Sorry.
Just the slob like one of us. It's very good. Dr. Evil wrote that.
Yeah.
Not widely known.
He's like, blue, 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 blue.
Was that the song?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was.
I wrote that. Yeah. That's
good. So good.
Then there was the Jonestown people who had gotten sick or died of old age, right? Back in the States, Jim had cured many of his followers of these ailments. But in Jonestown, they just died. Jim's constant presence in Jonestown had an unplanned side effect that he never saw coming. The people saw too much, and he quickly lost his sense of divinity. Sure, Jim's followers were still fiercely loyal. They still respected and feared him. They still believed he knew what was best for them. But as far as his godlike persona, that veil had been lifted.
Yeah, you got to have like the backstage for a reason. That's why any show's successful. Like the magic happens behind the stage and they bring the props out,
Yeah.
No backstage for that.
On March 14th, 1978, Temple member Pam Morton wrote a letter to Congress on behalf of the People's Temple Agricultural Project in Guyana. In it, she complained about the repeated visits and harassment by American officials and begged them to leave Jonestown alone. She ended the letter by saying, and I quote, "We have decided it would be better to die than to continue to endure such treatment.
Leave Jonestown alone."
Hey! Who? I don't know. Government.
Amazing. Good job.
So this letter, that little thing she dropped in there, hey, we'd rather die than, that didn't go over well, right?
Yeah,
people
yeah.
They already think you're a weird cult in the jungle, and then you're dropping that.
Yeah, I'd rather die. Oh, she's rational.
She's been hanging around Jim Jones too long.
That's right.
He has that effect on people. So this thing made it to concerned relatives pretty quick, and probably via Leo Ryan. And it made it to the Stones, and it made it to Maria Katsaris' father, Stephen. And they wasted no time in using it to their advantage. They drafted a 48-page packet of affidavits, letters, and accusations known as the accusation of human rights violations by Reverend James Warren Jones against the children of our relatives to the population.
Can't even do an acronym.
Listen to me. My God, this is long. I wonder what the acronym would spell out. Accusation of human rights violation by Reverend James Warren Jones against our children and relatives at the People's Temple Jungle Encampment in Guyana, South America. That was
No, that's too long.
Also known as That's the acronym.
It's perfect.
That reminds me of...
I was hoping it would be a NAFTA or something.
Now, the best acronyms, do you remember the Love Guru, Mike Myers?
Kind of.
All of his quotes or whatever, like when he was giving his little classes, they spell out things.
That's right. That's true. Yeah.
One of them was blow me, but it was like Blaum. It spells Blaum. Or into me I see. Like everything had an acronym that spelled out something. Naughty.
Yeah, into me I see.
It's not into me. It's into me I see.
That's awesome.
That's a great movie.
It is. It is. I need to watch it.
The document was signed by 25 former members, temple members, and people whose families were still in the cult. It was as if every shady thing Jim had ever done had been consolidated into one neat little package and tied up with a bow. It was his worst nightmare.
But the problem is there's only 25. I mean, he's led thousands of people.
Yeah.
Like how many at this point? Because several times you've said like he had a congregation of like 2,000, 5,000, 8,000 or whatever.
Oh, yeah. So nationwide?
So, I mean, if you...
10, 15,000?
As long as you wouldn't count the same people twice.
There's a lot.
You can only get 25. I mean, it's important, and I know it's crucial in the story, but I just wonder if something could have happened sooner, if all of this could have been avoided.
But you're right. If I was an attorney on Jim's side, I would say that. I'd be like, okay, listen. Out of tens of thousands...
Yeah.
25 people.
Yeah.
That's a pretty damn good record.
Yeah, exactly.
I would have said that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've eaten like thousands of Big Macs, and I mean, like 25 times they missed the cheese. I mean, come on. It's not the ratios. It's like it hardly ever happens.
Yeah, we'll let it pass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big Macs are still great.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the Big Mac defense.
There it is.
See, shit, he's using the Big Mac defense. We're screwed.
No. I can see some of the lawyers slamming their book shut. This case is over. He's using that Big Mac defense again. He beat me in 82 at the same game.
So, other than Congress, the packet was sent to the Guyanese government, who informed Jim right away. Hey, sure. Jim, look at this. The first thing he did was to try to walk back Pam Morton's statements suggesting that, they were ready to kill themselves. Even though they were, Jim didn't want that public.
Yeah, they didn't tell about the barrel.
No. So, yeah, he definitely didn't want concerned relatives to know that. He entrusted this task of fighting this off to Temple member Harriet Trop, okay?
Okay.
I want to talk about Harriet for a minute.
Go.
We haven't spoken about her yet, but she was a rare breed amongst Jim's followers. In many Native American tribes, there was one person who was granted special privileges and protections regarding freedom of speech, particularly the right to speak openly and critically, even toward their tribal leaders, okay? This was known, amongst the Lakota people anyway, as the Heyoka.
Okay.
And this is a real thing. No one could go against the tribal leader, but this Heyoka, like the sacred clown, they had this protection, and they could say whatever the hell they wanted.
Okay.
Well, it's almost as if the tribal leaders knew they needed at least one raw, unfiltered critical member that would hit them where it counted with the truth. Although Harriet was not funny, well, she could be funny. She was definitely Jim's Heyoka, in my opinion. She was just as dedicated to the cause as anyone, but she held nothing back when it came to the leader. And for whatever reason, Jim let her get away with it. Now, here's an example.
Okay, I'm ready.
After Jim spent hours complaining about disorganization to his followers in early March of 78, Harriet wrote him a memo that stated, quote, "I think the essence of our problem is that no one is willing to oppose your opinion in certain matters, and frankly, I think sometimes you're wrong, and no one is willing to say so." So that was...
It's neat.
Yeah.
Sometimes. I think he's wrong most of the time. But I mean, like you said, relatively, like no one else is saying anything. She can say that. That's impressive. I don't even, is it? I mean,
I think so.
It's surprising.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Someone can.
No one else was doing it.
Okay. Yeah, keep going.
Okay.
Kind of cool.
She hit him with another brutally honest opinion not long after that. At one meeting, Jim instructed all of his female followers to write down how and why they found him attractive. Everybody get out a piece of paper.
Do you think I'm hot? Yes or no?
And you think I'm sexy?
Come on, baby, write it down.
There we
Yeah!
go. thinking the same thing. That's amazing. Make a note.
Even I wouldn't even ask my wife, hey, why don't you get a piece of paper?
Oh, that's not a good idea.
I want you to write down. Yeah, she'd probably.
We're going to do a little exercise I learned from Jim Jones. Try it. Do it, Joe.
Write down how you think I'm attractive.
Put your phone on record, like where it's recording audio, and just like have it in your pocket.
I will.
And just be like, hey, we're going to do this little exercise I read about.
Yeah.
Don't say where.
I'll say, I'll write down how I find you attractive.
Yeah.
And I'll slide the paper back over and it'll just say, dim titties. I swear to God, that's what I'd really do.
What do you think hers would say?
Oh, I really don't know.
A wad of paper.
I've been with the woman for 18 years and I could not tell you what she would write. I have no idea. I'm going to try it.
I don't think it's going to work.
I'll let you know.
I don't think the activity will be completed.
Should I just say how you find me attractive or what you like?
No, do it just like that. Do it just like Jim did.
What wording did he use?
Okay.
Yeah, what word? Use the same wording.
Yes.
Okay, so it said, Jim instructed his followers to write down how and why they found him attractive.
That's it. That's the
Write
key.
down how and why you find me attractive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, you're the one that wants to start your own cult.
The hesitation Joe just had, I can see it in the waveform. I can see the blank. And here's what was popped in his head. He thought, it's not going to work.
It's not.
It wouldn't work if I did it.
So yeah, Jim instructs all of his female followers, hey, write down just how you think, how I trip your trigger. Write that down in words. So Harriet's note,
yeah,
it simply read this: you are 47 and fat.
Oh,
that's literally what she wrote.
Dang. That's crazy.
And he let her get away with it. So anyways, like I said, despite her harsh criticisms, overall, Harriet was devoted to Jim and the idea of socialism. And in a ham radio transmission that was later transcribed and released to the press, she claimed that Pam's quote-unquote willingness to die remarks were just symbolic, and that Jonestown celebrated the gift of life and had no intentions of committing suicide.
Symbolic.
Yeah. On May 10th, U.S. Consul Richard McCoy made an inspection visit to Jonestown. As usual, he was treated to a lavish guided tour, which, everyone regurgitated rehearsed lines and pretended that they were the happiest people on earth. After the visit, McCoy reported, and I quote, in general, the people appear healthy, adequately fed and housed, and satisfied with their lives on what is a large farm.
Yeah.
Jim flaunted this report to his detractors, but again, it did little good, especially because directly on the heels of McCoy's visit, longtime Temple member and one of Jim's inner circle, Debbie Layton, we've talked about her, she abruptly fled Jonestown to Georgetown, where she wrote a statement reporting that the people of Jonestown were planning a mass suicide.
Wow.
There were warnings out. She wrote it. She fled, and she's like, hey, everybody back in Jonestown is finna kill themselves. She put it out there, okay?
Yeah. That's crazy. They wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
They're such a rational group.
So Debbie then flew out of Guyana and back to New York with Consul McCoy. She was an especially dangerous defection because she was one of the very few people who knew all of the details of the temple's finances.
So she talked to the McCoy guy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I thought you were about to say she didn't.
No, she left with him.
Okay.
And he was the real McCoy, by the way, not Neil McCoy.
I know, the one that makes the crappy songs. Yeah, continue on.
Oh, no, McCoy's really good.
He had that one that was really good.
No, but I don't like the real the dance, the boom, boom. You know what I'm talking about? Remember that? It was like dance stuff. Yeah. No, I like Neil McCoy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Another da 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 da. Wasn't that? It was a crap song, man. Back in the 90s.
Okay.
Not the alternative 90s, that other dance stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where they got everybody clapping your hands.
Tick, 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 tick. Oh, my God, yeah.
Stuff like that. Well, it's cool at a dance, I guess.
I guess.
I don't want to crap on that. Some people like to jam to that. Continue on, sir.
Of course, this event sent Jim into an even more manic state of paranoia, and for good reason. In mid-June, a month after Debbie's defection, she filed a damning 11-page affidavit that outlined most of the temple's shady financial dealings, including the $65,000 per month it was bilking from its elderly residents. Whistleblower! Sorry, I don't know. She revealed She also revealed many details about harsh working conditions, poor nutrition, grueling schedules, and the high potential for mass suicide.
Whistleblower. To reiterate,
the suicide threat level is orange. That was supposed to be George Bush.
No, I knew. It was good.
Okay. She even included the account of Jim's mock suicide ritual that had occurred back on February 16th. The moment the affidavit went public, reporters pounced and the Jim Jones jungle death cult was all over the news.
Oh, I like Jim Jones jungle death cult.
Say that 3 times fast.
I can't. I can barely even say it once.
Me
I had to
too.
slow it way down.
At virtually the same time as this PR nightmare was unfolding in the States, even more trouble showed up on Jim's doorstep. Tim Stone and Stephen Katsaris filed a $15 million libel suit on Jim and his agents, quote unquote, for Maria's allegations that her father had sexually molested her. So I think I skimmed over that in all this research. If I did, Jim had coached her, much like this weird, like Casey Anthony. Remember, like out of nowhere, where it was like, my father molested me, which he didn't. Her dad committed suicide too later, by the way, in a hotel room. Yeah. Anyway, so I guess that's a thing because Jim coached her to say that. He never did. I think she may have retracted it later.
Wait, I think I have a good question for a change. Okay, so all this is going to blow up. Don't you think at some time, somewhere, I guess it's uncontrollable, but somebody should have said we should go at this cult thing with a scalpel and not, 1,000 chainsaws?
Yeah.
Because all this bad press and all this crazy stuff, all these lawsuits, I mean, it seems like you just get a bunch of Navy SEALs, special forces to get people out, but I guess they don't want to go, but maybe at least get the kids. I don't know. I guess I'm just thinking like, could this be a place where some lives could have been saved?
This is 70s though, right?
Yeah,
Late
that's
70s.
true. Yeah. And they are not in our country. I don't know. It's just
I get
tough.
what you're saying, though. Like, if they can, like, send some little SEAL Team 6 in to extract.
Okay, to go where you're going.
Yeah.
At least they did that in Waco. They did get somewhat.
Some.
They did get some.
How many
kids
did they get out? Do you know that number?
Not many. They killed most of them. They burned most of
Well,
them.
when you say they, I don't think we'll ever know who started that fire.
I know that's a big debate. Who
Yeah.
started
I mean,
the
depending
fire.
on who you talk to, it's crazy to me that some people are so sure about any of it.
Right.
How can you be? Because even people there like have differing stories.
Wasn't the government like spraying something in there? And I thought they were spraying like gas canisters or something in, and then I think it was almost an accident. Like then it got ignited by something.
Here's the two sides that I
Okay.
read about it a lot.
Sorry,
for
I
a
didn't
few
mean
days.
to. I didn't mean to start a.
No. One
whole
side
debate about it.
is they burn themselves.
Right.
That's the one extreme side. And the other extreme side is the government did it. So those two camps that passionately believe in both of those, you would never sway them. And they just are internet sleuths like
Right.
any of us. So what I'm trying to say is I don't know how anyone's so sure of anything because you know how fires work?
Right.
They destroy evidence.
Yeah. What if the middle is it was accidental? You know, like
Yeah.
it wasn't even.
And also another thing, who shot first? There were shots that were fired when they were.
And they claim that the Davidians shot first. They
Yeah.
shot that. Yeah.
I guess I'm just me being me, like saying, hey, guys, we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't always have to be so far divided. We don't know. We could come together at some point and be like, I don't know, maybe it was one way, maybe it was another, but we can't pretend to know.
It's funny you say that because this has been on my mind. This may be an unpopular opinion, but this is just my opinion. There's so much going on in the world right now. It's so funny because my wife is obsessed with it all. She doom scrolls and she's like, oh my God, did you know what happened in Iran and all this, or Ukraine or Russia or Israel or Palestine? And all my feed is fart jokes and music and cars. I wouldn't even know anything. I like it that way. I was like, listen, we're not built to handle knowing the problems of 8 billion people on earth. We're
not
God.
built for most of the things we experience every day.
Exactly. I'm like, you know what I care about? My little 15-month-old has got teeth coming in. It's so cute. She's almost walking. She's a little delayed, but she's almost walking. My 7-year-old also has teeth coming in. She just learned to ride a bike really well without training wheels. I got stuff going on. I don't give two shits about all that stuff, and it's okay that I don't.
Well, people will try to suck you in, and then they'll try to say that you should be more informed about the world. But I think if you're a good citizen and good to the people around you, you're somehow carrying kind of a candle, kind of like in Into the Road by Cormac McCarthy. Do you have the fire?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, so try to be a good person, take care of your stuff at home. It doesn't matter that you're just so tuned into all that stuff. You can read that at your leisure when it's time to make a decision about something.
In the grand scheme of things, what is going to change if little Joe Hall from the corner of Arkansas is like, free Palestine, Ukraine flag in my bio, down with whatever. What's it going to, it's not going to change anything.
I guess there are some people that feel like they need to do that. And if they want to do that, that's fine too. But I'm not going to hate them for it. It's like,
oh, no. Yeah.
Yeah, but I see what you're saying, the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just not for me.
It's not for me. I don't even have an opinion on it. Don't ask me about it. I don't know about it.
Yeah.
Here's I don't want anyone to die anywhere. I don't want no bad things to happen. But I know all that stuff is complicated. And listen, everybody yelling at each other on the internet. I think if I were ever going to answer, what's your opinion on, let's say, the Israel-Palestine thing? Before I answered that, I'll be like, I'll get back to you in 6 months.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to go read 40 books. I'm going to go watch 50 documentaries. I'm going to talk to people.
Yeah.
I'm going to get the most detailed, huge amount of information that I can. I'm not going to judge it just based on some little TikTok thing that pisses me off.
Joe's long-term or slow Siri. He's like...
I think that would be a funny Instagram reel or something, like a TikTok, slow Siri.
Yeah.
Let me think about that.
Well, because most people just get
8 months later.
Yeah. You would have to.
Siri has AOL.
Here's what I found on that.
Do you know how complicated that situation is and how many thousands of years it goes back? And it didn't just start the other day. I'm never going to just answer that. But everyone just, you just see some, and they're designed so well, some little video on Instagram or TikTok that fires you up. And like my daughter, my 19-year-old will be like, Dad, Donald Trump is going to pass a law where women have to be tied down and forcefully impregnated. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen. Whether you love or hate the guy, I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen. I don't know where you saw that. No, but I saw it. Yeah, I'm sure you did. But and it goes the other way too. Like from both sides, it's insane. And I'm just like, I look into that a little bit before you go ranting about it. Just look into it a little bit. Probably not going to happen.
She saw it on TikTok, and so that's why it's true.
God love her, and that's what a lot of people.
No, I saw somebody posted that on TikTok. That's going to happen. That's real.
It took them 4 minutes to acquire all the information and to compile the video. So obviously, they've done their due diligence.
Yeah. But anyway, that's just me. I'm just like, I'm over here. I know some people would say, if it gets big enough, it'll affect you and stuff. And I'm like, I guess it will. But what am I supposed to do? My whole thing is, I'm going to tend to the part of the garden that I can reach or whatever, however that goes.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
And I'm going to just take care of my family. And I'm just going to try to live, guys. I'm just going to try to raise these babies. And, I feel bad for people in the Middle East blowing each other up. I feel bad for whatever's going on ever. I wish everybody would just eat some mushrooms and smoke a joint and be cool, man. Let's just chill out. Everybody in the whole world and here in America too. Let's just chill out. I want to run for president.
People now.
Yeah. Everybody just simmer down a little. Everybody everywhere.
Simmer down now. Who said that?
It's in some stupid song.
I think it is.
Anyway, that's a stupid rant, but that's my thoughts. That's all I have to say about that.
It's good.
I'm about as smart as Forrest Gump on that. Okay. All right. Stone then filed 2 more lawsuits, an $18.5 million suit on behalf of an elderly couple named Wade and Mabel Medlock, alleging Jim had taken their property, and another suit for $23 million on behalf of Gang of 8 member Jim Cobb for libelous comments and, quote, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Boy, is that worth $23 million emotional distress?
I don't know.
Damn.
Strong emotions.
Jim's entire universe was imploding, and he couldn't handle it. He became so drug-addled that his son, Jim Jones Jr., recalled having to strip his unconscious father down and drag him into a cold shower to revive him long enough for an upcoming consul inspection or meeting.
I've heard of people being called JJ, but do they call him JJJ?
Yeah, Jim Jones Jr. At this point, much of Jonestown's daily operations, like I hinted at earlier, were being controlled by Jim's harem, Carolyn Layton and Maria Katsaris. Also, Annie Moore. She became Jim's personal nurse and literally never left his side. She constantly checked his vitals and attempted to balance his Herculean drug addiction.
Oh, I just thought of something. I wonder if sometimes you would just give him more just to keep him chill.
Ooh.
Wouldn't you? It's probably not illegal for her to do it, or not legal for her to do it anyway.
So Maria and Carolyn might have been like...
She's in a bad situation.
Yeah. Hey, we got ideas for Jonestown. Keep Jim knocked
what's
out.
legal there?
Well, nothing.
Yeah, nothing and everything.
Probably especially using the squirrel like we say they did.
On August 8th, at a packed pavilion meeting, another meeting, Jim shakily stood up and announced that he was dying of lung cancer. Temple physician Larry Schacht had recently made the diagnosis. Jim also explained that, unlike in the past, he was not able to heal himself this time because he had, and this is what he said, quote, forgotten how.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Misplaced that spell book.
So he was now living on borrowed time, and any dissent or non-cooperation from his followers would only hasten his impending death. Unbeknownst to them, Dr. Carlton Goodlett had flown to Jonestown from San Francisco to examine Jim, and he found no evidence whatsoever of any type of cancer.
But he knows better than the doctor.
Yeah, Jim kept that a secret. There had recently been issues amongst his followers. They'd complained that sometimes they wanted meat instead of their steady diet of rice slop. How dare they?
Yeah.
And many of the young men had been caught playing basketball on a court that they'd improvised with literal woven baskets for goals. They're down there playing basketball.
Kind of like that movie with Kevin Bacon. He finds the NBA players in Africa.
I don't know.
Oh, the air up there.
Yeah, they have hoops woven out of, they look like baskets.
Oh, okay. That's probably the deal here.
Basketball. But, they look like
literal baskets.
Yeah, like woven baskets.
Yeah, that was what they were doing. I don't know what they used for a ball.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe pineapple or something. I don't know.
Some kind of intestines inflated animal or whatever.
So yeah, to put it short, the natives, they were getting restless and a little entitled. But if they believed even the slightest disruption of the status quo would further damage Father's health, that'd keep him in line. You know, this cancer thing was just another ruse.
Oh, yeah.
At this time, Jim also conjured the Extended Care Unit. This was simply a hut on the outskirts of Jonestown where anyone Jim was paranoid about, literally, would be drugged and tied up and held against their will for an undetermined amount of time.
Hey, that doesn't sound like care.
Instead of intensive care, it's extensive care.
Extended care.
Oh, yeah, I gotcha. That makes sense. That's the only thing about this place that makes sense. The terminology.
So in the fall of 1978, Temple financial advisor Gene Chaikin fled Jonestown to hide out in Trinidad until he could permanently defect.
I guess he wasn't afraid of anacondas.
Ocelots?
An ocelot.
The ocelot? Up to 15.2 kilograms? Teeth up to a quarter inch long? They purr? They're adorable? You want to run into one of those?
Without a litter box?
They'll do a figure eight around your ankles?
Terrifying.
So Gene Chaikin, he flees. He flees? Leave that in, Sam. He flees. There's no D on the end.
Gotcha.
However, his wife, Phyllis, was still fiercely loyal to Jim, and she was able to talk Gene into returning.
Wow.
Yeah, man. But as soon as he got back, he was drugged, tied up, and thrown in the extended care unit as punishment.
See, honey, aren't you glad you came back? He came back for that.
Yep.
He should at least negotiated, right?
You think so? I'll come back if you don't treat me like shit. If you don't yell at me in front of everybody for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Or else I'm not coming back.
No promises.
Yeah, of course, Jim would be like, of course. And then he would.
Yeah, that's true.
After Gene's attempted defection, Jim had him drugged and held there every time any outsider came into Jonestown for fear that he was going to run his mouth. So anytime there was a consul or a Guyanese official coming in, Gene would get drugged and thrown into the hut.
Wow. It's like, please, no visitors.
Yeah. This brings us to September of 1978. And even though Jim didn't yet know it, he was directly in the sights of his biggest adversary, California Congressman Leo Ryan.
You know that sound effect?
In this corner, Jim Jones.
I can't do it, but it's like.
And they yelled,
Yeah. Whoever invented those is a real jerk.
Ryan had long been suspicious of Jim and his entire organization and had been teasing a trip out there for months. Now that his campaign efforts were over, and given all the media coverage recently dedicated to Jonestown and Tim Stone's lawsuits and the concerned relatives bombshell affidavit and Debbie Layton's documents, Leo Ryan decided it was finally time to head on down to Jonestown. We're going to talk about that in the next episode. The second to last episode.
Wow. This thing's ramping up. It's crazy. I would think next one would be our last, if it kind of feels like it would be. So There must be a lot of stuff still out there.
So much happens.
This
Even
is only the beginning. We've only just begun.
even just in the couple of days that the congressman was in Jones, so much happens, guys. So yeah, that's why there's 2 more episodes. We're almost there, guys.
Yeah. Maybe that should be the episode title. We've only just begun.
We've only just begun
To die.
Oh, Lord.
I know. I said it and I was like, oh, man, I regret that.
I instantly regret that.
But they did when they started doing the suicide stuff, when they started talking about it, you know what's going to happen.
I wonder when they really did the actual suicide, if they thought that was also just another trick.
Well, it's 900, right?
Right.
So there's got to be some people, the first few.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like the other 902 or whatever, however many, watched the first one go, couple, because it took a few minutes. But I wonder when the very first person was like, "Ugh," and fell over dead, that was when I bet a lot of people were like, oh, shit. It's real this time.
Yeah,
but go ahead, Sam.
I mean, you're still 890 against 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you not revolt?
Because it was actually like...
Well, no. Because a third were children. We established
a third
that.
were kids.
So 600.
But out of that 600, I'm just wild guess, I bet 450 or 500 were fiercely loyal. Where we're like, give it to me.
I'm sure some like sociologist or some psychologist would know this, but it seems like if you just had a third that were like adamant for him, that seems like for some reason that would be enough to get the rest just to follow suit.
It probably may have been, yeah.
Because we're followers, man. I mean, that's what we are. Look at social media. Follow, like, share, subscribe. Do all that to our podcast, by the way, while I mention it. But anyway, but I mean, that's what it's about, man.
Yeah. There was this, do you ever see this experiment? And I don't remember the name of it, but it was set up to where people were, it was like a wanted ad or something they put out where you come in and you can read for a part or something. Anyway, it's just a big room with like 20 chairs and like 10 people are in the chairs. And when the new person comes in, they sit down next to the other 10 people. And then there's like there's a beep. And all 10 people stand up. And the guy that just walked in just looks at them.
Yeah.
And then another beep, they sit down. By the second or third beep, he's standing up too.
Was that Pavlov's dog or whatever?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, the dog salivates whenever it hears the bell.
Yeah.
They've done that experiment for humans in different ways, and it still applies.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's kind of like that, right?
Yeah. We're followers.
Because you're like, oh, well, I guess if they're doing that when this happens, then I'll do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my gosh, drinking something that's going to kill you. I think there's a line there.
That would be the time to go your own way.
Go your own way. Don't you drink the Kool-Aid. Sorry. Go.
It's one thing to push a thumb to like something.
Yeah.
Or to ask for followers.
Well, if you want to know how extreme people will take it, they had an experiment where someone would shock a stranger. Yeah, the pain experiment. And most people went way far.
Yes, that's creepy.
Way, way further than what the researchers figured they would go.
What was the payoff of that?
Just following directions.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. No payoff.
Just doing
what you're supposed to.
Weird.
Yeah.
I wish one of the Jonestown settlers, like if their mother was like, well, if everyone else jumped off a bridge, would you too? They'd be like, yes.
Yes, I would.
I would.
If everyone else drank the poison Kool-Aid, would you?
Yes.
Yes.
I would actually.
Man, that's some crazy psychology. This is stuff that people probably still to this day have it, and they're still researching it like, and it's probably like the day they started researching it. They're probably still pulling, notions out of it and just like trying to understand our stupid brains.
I know. I'll never understand the Jonestown thing. But yeah, that's it for episode 12.
Yeah.
We got 2 more to go. And thanks for sticking in with us this long. And it's just, wow, we're coming into the home stretch.
Yeah.
So we'll see you next time. Thank you.